Thank you, Kathy. Good afternoon, everybody. As Kathy said, we're going to be covering English learners and immigrant data collection and reporting this afternoon. Before we get started, I want to make sure you are aware of some resources that you can refer back to after this presentation or at any time in the future. You can refer to the KSIS data standards to obtain data elements required for state and federal reporting purposes. This is the English Learners Data Standards and the Immigrant Data Standards. You can also refer to KDE's English Learner and Immigrant Data Collection website for data collection and reporting timeline resources. And you can refer to KDE's English Learner and Immigrant Resource website for program-related resources. We're going to start off with English learner identification. Students are identified as an English learner as a result of the WIDA screener for kindergarten, if a student is in kindergarten, or the WIDA online screener for students who are in grades 1 through 12. For kindergarten, any student who is screened is going to be considered an EL, an English learner. While for grades 1 through 12, students in scoring below a 4.5 overall composite on the WIDA online screener will be labeled as EL. EL students retain EL status or program status until meeting Kentucky's exit criteria. Those exit criteria are for kindergarten through grade 12, a 4.5 or higher overall composite proficiency level on the tier B and C or C access for ELLs. And then if your student is taking the alternate access, then a score of P2 on the alternate access meets the exit criteria. EL census, the path to get here, you start census, then go to people, and then the demographic tab. You get, for your home primary language, you're going to choose from an alphabetical list of world languages. A home language is defined as the language spoken at the home. This information is obtained through questions on the home language survey, which students will, the families of students will complete upon enrollment, initial enrollment to a Kentucky public school. And on that survey, there is a question relating to language spoken at home, and that will be where you're going to find the home primary, primary language. In the case of a foreign-born student living in an English-speaking home of his or her adopted family, you are going to choose the student's native language from the home primary language drop list. So that, once again, that's the student's native language, not the language spoken by the family, which would be English in that case. The home primary language field cannot be blank for an EL student. You have to have something in there. And the HLS does not need to be administered when a student transfers from one district to another, just when just initial enrollment into a Kentucky public school. So if a student takes or if the HLS is completed in one district and the student moves to another Kentucky district, you do not need to conduct the home language survey again. So when an EL student transfers, the receiving district should run the data import extended census import wizard via student records transfer to obtain the student's original home primary language. For Native American language, if student's home primary language selection is Native American, the selection from the drop list is required. Please note that the student's home primary language should not be updated when the student exits the EL program status, because that home primary language does not change. Even though the student would be considered proficient in English, they'll still have the same home primary language. The English learner program status, your path for this is student information, then program participation, then English learners, and then the EL tab. For the identified date, you're going to enter the date the student was found eligible for EL program and services based on an initial determination test. That's the WIDA screener for kindergarten, or the WIDA online screener that we talked about a couple slides ago. For the expected exit date, you're going to enter the date in which the student is expected to exit the EL program. EL students are expected to reach English language proficiency within 5 to 7 years of instruction in an English learner program. Students who do not exit EL status within 5 years should be evaluated and monitored for possible intervention. For the program status, you select EL for current students meeting the definition of English learner. You do not change program status when a student graduates if they did not reach attainment on the Access assessment prior to graduation. For EL services, your path is going to be student information, program participation, English learners, and then the EL services tab. You're going to select from a drop list of the services provided, and you're going to enter the start date as the date of the service begins. Students must have at least one EL service type to be considered an EL student for reporting purposes. EL services should not be end-dated when a student transfers, and EL services should not be end-dated each year. For EL accommodations, your path is going to be student information, program participation, English learners, and then EL accommodations tab. Similar to EL services, you're going to select from a drop list of accommodations that is provided and enter the date as enter the start date as the date that the accommodation began. Students must have at least one active instructional accommodation to be included in reporting. Assessment accommodations are required for state testing purposes. Just like EL services before, and EL accommodations should not be end-dated when a student transfers, and EL accommodations should not be end-dated after each year. Talk about EL program exit. When students who obtain EL proficiency for students who obtained EL proficiency on the 2022 Access, so the one taking this most recent school year, EL record must be updated as follows. You would do program status as exited EL. For that program exit date, it's going to be June 30th, so 6/30. And if they exited this past school year, that would be 2022. Your program exit state would be Kentucky, and you would update that as applicable. And EL service end dates would also be 6/30/2022, and EL accommodation end dates would also be 6/30/2022. For program exit state, when a program exit date is entered, the program exit state auto-populates to Kentucky. If a student exits EL status from another state, this field should be updated. An IC ran a script to auto-populate this field for students in EL monitoring status to Kentucky on July 1st. EL monitored students who exited from another state will need this field updated after the notification script is complete. We have some updated guidance for exited ELs transferring from another state. So starting with this next school year, 2022-23, students who exit EL in any state, and this includes WIDA and non-WIDA states, and they transfer back to Kentucky after transferring from Kentucky, then exiting from the other state and then coming back to Kentucky, the scores and exit criteria will be accepted. Previously, only those students exiting from another WIDA state was accepted, but now we're including non-WIDA state in there as well. So if the student has exited the EL program from another state, the student's EL record in Kentucky would need to be updated as follows. Program status updated to exited EL. Program exit date should be added as June 30th, 6/30 of the year they exited the EL program in the other state. And this will pre-populate the EL monitoring years. Program exits state selection should be the state the student exited EL status. EL services and EL accommodations should also be end dated as 6/30 of the year the student exited the EL program and in the other state. and the student must be monitored based on the populated monitoring years. All right. At this point, I'm going to hand things over to Marjorie.
Hello, my name is Marjorie Conley. I work with the Office of Employment of Continuous Improvement, and I work with all the data for our Title I programs. I'm going to cover the data side of our English learner and immigrant. I'll start with student records transfer. You're going to transfer from a receiving district and a originating district. The originating district, to prepare for the transfer, must end date the enrollment of the student before releasing the record for all transfer functionality to work correctly. The originating district, the district that student is transferring from, should not end date EL accommodations or EL services when student transfers to a new district. The receiving district, which is the district that the student is transferring to obtain EL records from the originating district, they're going to want to use the import wizards. And with the import wizard should include assessment import wizard, which imports prior EL screeners or access testing in which the student has participated. English learner import wizard, which is imports data from the EL tab from the previous district. Extended census import wizard, which imports the student's original home primary language as reported on the home language survey. The transfer documents that should be included with the transfer include English learners, EL services, and EL accommodations. This is an example of what the student record transfer looks like, and you'll see the highlighted fields there. That's what should be included for English learner. And on the right, there's a note that says reference student records transfer data standard for additional details. So anytime you're doing a student record transfer, the student records transfer data standard will give you information on what should and should not be included, and is an extremely helpful tool anytime you're doing a student record transfer. Just a couple of reminders for the student record transfer. Transfer EL records from another public school district. Do not create a new English learner record for an incoming student, but instead import the record from the previous district. And you'll do that using the student record transfer and update the import record as needed. Students returning to Kentucky after moving out of state or country, those districts should search Student Locator to obtain records in Infinite Campus that should be imported and or updated as needed. Do not create a new record for these students. You're going to want to use the student record transfer instead of creating a new record. I'm going to go ahead and start talking a little bit about the reports. We've got several reports which help to ensure our data is accurate, and we want our data to be as clean and accurate as possible. The first report is the English Learner State Report. You'll find this report, the path is Kentucky State Reporting and English Learner Extract. This is to review and resolve errors produced. So when you run that report, there'll first be an initial error page, which will include these errors. The first error would be English learner record does not have at least one service type overlapping the date range specified. The second one would be English learner record does not have at least one instructional accommodation overlapping the date range specified. Students' primary home language is English, or student records with errors. Just a note, student records with errors will not be included in the data reported and must be updated. So when you see these errors, these are all errors that do need to be updated if these students should be included in the data and for federal reporting. To review and resolve warning if applicable. First warning, student's primary home language is other, or student records with warnings will be included in the data reported. The next one I'm going to cover is the QA English Learner Report. Again, a great one to help you clean up your data and make sure everything is accurate. The path to find that is Kentucky State Reporting, KDE Reports, QA English Learners. There are different report types once you get to the landing page for the report. We have a detailed report and an aggregate report, as well as some new options I'll cover next. The detailed report is demographic data elements for current English learner students and students in English learner monitoring status. This detailed report actually gives student level data, so it is one that you want to be careful about sharing and seeing who can view and who can see the data that's included on this report. The aggregate report is a report that can be shared. It provides tables of English learner student counts grouped by grade level, demographic groups, and primary home language. The new options with the QA English Learner is the Attainment reports. Two new types of reports available under QA English Learner that assist districts in preparation for access testing window. The first one is the Reach Access Attainment Error Report. This provides a list of students who are indicated as English learner but who have reached attainment on a prior access assessment. And the other one is No Prior Access Attainment Error Report, which provides a list of students who are not indicated as English learner but have not previously reached attainment on a prior access assessment. Please take note, students who exited English learner status from a state other than Kentucky will still appear on the no prior access attainment report, but will have the program exit state highlighted for reference. No action is required for these records. Some dates that are very important for English learner reporting. The timeline, October the 1st through the 30th, district review of English learners, the data in Infinite Campus for federal reporting, federal English learner enrolled and served as of October the 1st. November the 1st, KDE extracts English learner data from Infinite Campus for federal reporting requirements. Second Tuesday in March, KDE extracts English learner data from Infinite Campus for tentative allocations. May the 1st, district data verification opens for English learners, which is when you want to go in and ensure that everything is accurate. Because on June 30th, district data verification for English learner closes. All English learner data should be updated and complete on June the 30th, because on July the 1st, actually I'm skipping ahead, I'm sorry. After state testing, June 30th, enter program status and program end date for students who have exited English Learner during the academic year. You're going to make sure and end date English Learner Services and English Learner Accommodations as of 6/30 of the year, which the student exits English Learner. Even if it's earlier in the year, the exit date should always be 6/30. July the 1st is when KDE is going to extract the English learner data from Infinite Campus and State Edition for the end of year reporting and final allegations. I'm going to move over to our immigrant data requirements. The path to enter and to update immigrant information and data is student information, general, enrollments, state reporting fields, and immigrant checkbox. An immigrant is defined as an individual who is aged 3 through 21, was not born in any state in the United States of America, including Puerto Rico, has not been attending one or more U.S. schools for more than 3 full academic years. This 3 years is calculated by using the date entered U.S. school via Census, People, and Demographic tab. Title III Immigrant Report. To find this report, you'll go to Kentucky State Reporting, KDE Reports, and Title III Immigrant. Access for this report must be granted to the by the district system administrator. The purpose of the report is to produce aggregate immigrant data and the supporting student level detail for quality assurance review. Again, we want to make sure our data is as clean as it can possibly be. The report can be generated by entering a date range on the landing page or selecting a year from the toolbar. The detailed report highlights errors for students identified as immigrant on the current enrollment, but the date entered U.S. school is greater than 3 years or null. Please note these errors must be resolved for the student to be included as immigrant for the district. The importance of data accuracy, determination of Title III and immigrant district allocations, federal reporting mandates, SEEK funding allocations, and school report card public public reporting. And now you'll find Aaron and my contact information just in case you have any questions in the future. But for right now, we can try to answer any questions you may have.